see what this great universal message is all about. And we're just coming from the Shema, which is the message of the Jewish people. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, right? And now in this section, we're going to talk about Yakidu v'yedu kabbalah elam. Let all mankind recognize. Now, if you actually look at the Shema, you will see that you'll see clearly that the Shema says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, and the Lord is one. So as Rashi explains, what does it mean the Lord is our God, the Lord is one? It seems like a little repetitive. There's two things. Our God, the Jewish people's God, but the Lord is one, means that there is one Lord over the entire world. Okay, and that's the dream of the Jewish people, as the prophet Zechariah says, V'hoya Hashem l'melech hakol haaretz, God will be the king over the whole world. By Yom Hahu, on that day, Hashem echad, God will be one and his name will be one. You know, we sing that in the shul. Hashem echad, God is one and his name is one for the whole world. On that day, at the end of times. So this is the message of the Jewish people. It's not just a parochial message. It's not just a limited message for Jews, but ultimately it was the dream from the very outset of Judaism that our message be accepted by the whole world. The concept of ethical monotheism, which Abraham came to teach to the world, it was from the very beginning the plan that it should be a world vision, not just the Jewish vision, but the whole world will embrace it. And this is clearly stated in the Torah. But we know that when Abraham first started the religion, before he had Isaac and Jacob, and the Jewish family started to advance and grow, Abraham, it says, he went around and he taught everyone. He converted the men, and Sarah converted the women, and it was like a world concept, a world vision. They were teaching the whole world about the idea of one God. And not just that there's one God, but there's a one God that demands ethical and moral standards. And this is what unites the entire world. We know that every day in the prayers, we say the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, but we conclude with the shield of Abraham. Baruch atah Hashem Magen Avraham, shield of Abraham. So even though there's Abraham, there's Isaac, there's Jacob, that's the story of the Jewish people unfolding there, right? But the blessing ends with Magen Avraham, because Avrohom was the universal story of the Jewish people, the universal message. So Isaac, yes, was the beginning of the family of Jews who passed it on to his son Jacob, who passed it on from generation to generation, and it became the Jews trying to be good Jews. Did we forget about the world and our message for the world? No, we didn't forget about that. And we always had a dream that one day, Mashiach will come and it'll bring peace to the whole world. And it'll bring depth and profundity and meaning and happiness, and based on the Jewish vision for the world. And that's what we said. That's what the Shema says. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, but the Lord is one. There will be a day, as Rashi said, that the Lord will be one, not just for the Jews, but it will be a God for all of the world. And as we say in this prayer over here, Yakiru v'yedu kol baya elam, that there will be a day when let all mankind recognize and know that you are alone a God. All of mankind. A world vision of the Jewish people. Sometimes, we don't really see that. In Maimonides, in the Rambam, it says that Jews have a responsibility for the nations of the world. The ethics and the morals of the world is a Jewish responsibility. And whenever we can, we have to influence the world to follow the Mosaic vision of world peace and unity, of morals and ethics for the entire world. Even before Abraham, there was already a code that was revealed to the people of the world by God through Adam and Noah. And that's why it's important that before we had Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, we already there's a whole section there about Adam and Noah and how God speaks to them and tells them to be moral and to run a decent life. Why is that important? If Judaism, the Torah is just for Jews, it's not necessary. They should have just started with the Jews, Abraham, or even later with Moses. But obviously, we want the whole world to be on that same path, with that same vision. And at the beginning of the creation, we say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. That whole section about the creation of the world is already part of Judaism's story. And it's important to Judaism's story. Because it's important to know that God created the heaven and earth, and then there was Adam, and there was Eve, and then there was Noah. And God spoke to them, and he revealed to them a code of how the world should conduct itself so that the world should not self-destruct. God speaks to Noah after the flood and says the world is not acting the way they should, and that's why the world was destroyed. It imploded. And so he told Noah to start again from scratch. And he tells him about a code. It's called the Noahide Code. And many people know about it. It's Judaism code for the world. It's called the Noahide Law. And Maimonides speaks about it at great length, and he writes that it is the duty of the Jewish people to try to influence all the members of this planet to follow that code. So the Rebbe once spoke and says, well, what happened with this law? Where did it go? Why didn't we hear about it for so many years? And the Rebbe started to talk about the Noahide code. The Rebbe said, where was it all these years? And the answer is simple. That for so many years, Jews were persecuted, and we were forced to live in a shtetl, and we had no interaction with the people of the world. The only interaction we had was with the Shabbos Goy, Somebody needed a Goy to come to Shabbos. But otherwise, we didn't have we had no influence. We had no say. We weren't part of a government. We weren't part of we weren't a recognized nation of the world. We had no influence. I never said, but things have changed. Baruch Hashem. Even though we're still having tzaras, there's still lots of problems. But Jews have a very big influence. And especially today. But we have the internet, and we have Facebook, and we have Instagram, and we have TikTok, and we have Zoom. We have the ability now to influence the entire world. Today they have a thing called influencers, people that their whole job is to. So Jews have a responsibility now to try to influence the world and teach them, tell them to teach the world about this Noahide code. What is the Noahide code? Okay, what is the Noahide code that we speak about over here? That we're hoping there'll be a day where all of mankind will recognize and know God. What is this code that we talk about? And these are laws that God revealed to Adam and then afterwards to Noah. So there are 7 laws of Noah, 7 laws of the Noachide. The Noachide code is not like the 10 commandments that we have, or the 613 mitzvahs, but there are 7 basic principles of decency, humanity, called religion, but a unifying religion that all the people of the world would have. This, yeah. So, what do we got? One of the laws which God told both to Adam and to later on to Noah again is a prohibition against murder. Shofech dam, spilling blood of another human being. Quite a simple law. Thou shalt not murder, we have in the 10 Commandments. And this is quite an expansive law, which is in the Noachide code, and perhaps it's even stricter in the Noachide code than it is even in the 10 Commandments. Because in the Noachide code, it says, someone who spills the blood of a fellow, his blood shall be spilled. Sheifech dam ha'adam, someone who pours the blood of another person, there is retribution, and that person should be put to death. But regardless of the punishment right now, what's important is the actual law. It's a prohibition against murder. And many say that in that prohibition of murder is also a prohibition against abortion. To which point it's questionable, but there is a prohibition against the killing of life. As the language of the Torah says, Shefer dam ha'adam b'adam. There is the blood of man within man. What's the blood of man within man? The Talmud says that refers even to abortion. So there's a prohibition against murder. Then we have a prohibition. So this is the, but it needs to be a law which is based on the belief in God, the belief in this revelation from Moses at Sinai of this Noachide code. And it's very important because, just to say not to kill or not to murder is not enough. We need to know that it comes from a higher place. So there's a prohibition against murder. There's a prohibition against theft, to steal. There's a prohibition against adultery. So far we have three of the basic laws, which are within Judaism as well. And then we have a prohibition against idolatry. Idolatry is a very important prohibition that we were not allowed to believe. It's not necessarily, we don't see there a mitzvah to believe in God, but it's not to believe in a multiple deity. It has to be a singular deity. A belief which connotes belief in God, but it's the way it's structured is that it's a prohibition against idols. Now, so in order to be a good Noachide human being, you're not allowed to believe in idols. Which means, obviously, if you believe in Judaism, no problem. If you believe in Islam, it's also no problem because they believe in a one God, which they call Allah. Yeah. Question is, but it excludes the idolatrous religions. Now, one would think that probably this question is, where does Christianity fall into? Well, we don't really know yet what Christianity holds because we haven't seen yet the white smoke. So everyone's waiting for the white smoke. We don't know yet who the Pope is. But the question is Christianity in contravention of this Noachide code? Is Christianity an idolatrous religion? And that's a good question. I remember I once had a Gentile who wanted to become Jewish, and I convinced him. I said, you don't necessarily need to be Jewish. Be a good Noachite. Keep the laws of the Noachite code. And he was very excited with it, and he started studying it. But he was a Christian. So he was a student in school at the time. He was studying as a law student. I haven't seen him in years. I'm talking about this is like 30 years ago, 35 years ago. I was learning with this fellow who wanted to become Jewish, and then he said he wants to be a Noachide. And he was a little confused because he was a Christian, and he wanted to know if you can still continue to believe the beliefs of Christianity and be a Noachide. Question is Christianity an idolatrous religion? Now, obviously, Christianity has a lot of idolatrous notions involved. But this guy wrote a whole thesis. He was then studying in college and university, and he wrote a whole thesis on this particular subject of whether you can be a Noachide and a Christian at the same time. And he came to the conclusion that those that believe like in the Trinity, that's okay. That's not an idolatrous notion. But those that believe in the concept of the incarnate of God, that a human being becomes God, that is an idolatrous notion. Because in Christianity, you have many, many different notions as well as to how to understand Christianity. And there is in Judaism, there's a concept called shituf. Shituf is a partnership. For Jews, partnership with God is forbidden. That's considered an idolatrous notion if we believe that there is a partner to God. But for Gentiles, it's not necessarily prohibited. What is prohibited is believing that God became a human being or something along those lines. Anyways, this is a long explanation. But this guy, I was very impressed with him. His last name was Or, O-R-R, remember his name? Yeah. So he was studying at the time, and he wrote this whole thesis about whether you can be a Christian and at the same time believe in the Noachide code. So we have so far, how many mitzvahs do we have? We have a prohibition against murder, against theft, against adultery, and against idolatry, right? Idolatry. And then we have another law, which is prohibition against cursing God. It's called Birkas Hashem. We say it in a nice way, the blessing of God. It really means to curse God, but we don't want to say that. So we call it's in Hebrew, it's Birkas Hashem. It's called cursing God. And even though the word is bracha, it's about blessing and the opposite of God, right? You know what I'm saying? So what is this commandment? To me, that's about respecting God, right? That you're not allowed to. There's a prohibition against cursing a deity. That means that we're always respectful to God, and everything we do is respectful to Hashem. There are many people that will use certain words in their language where they curse God. Or they might use God in reference to a curse. I'll say, God, I can't say the word, something it. So that's, but we have to be respectful of God, and that is one of the Noachide codes. So far, I think we've spoken about murder, idolatry, adultery, theft, and then we have cursing God, and then there are two more laws which are given to Noach and to Adam, and that is, if you look in the Torah, you can find it. Is one law is the law of cruelty to animals. That human beings are not allowed to be cruel to animals. And the way the Torah says it is that you're not allowed to eat an animal before you slaughter it. It's called Eva min achai. You're not allowed to eat a limb of a living animal, which to me, that includes all forms of cruelty to animals. So that's another aspect of the Noahide code. So you see, it's almost like a comprehensive code that God gave to humanity, to Adam and to Noah. And that is the dream of Judaism, is that the people won't be cruel to the animals. Now, the law actually that's mentioned in the Torah is Eva min achai, a limb of a living animal. Now, why is that even a law? I mean, who eats a limb of a living animal? People say, like, there's no such thing. Like, what's the Torah talking about? I mean, who eats today a limb of a living? But the truth is that there is a certain kind of food, which is crab. People eat crab, and there's a big delicacy, especially down in Florida. It's known as stone crab. Stone crab is a big delicacy down in Florida. You go to all the restaurants and all the places on the waterfront, and they sell stone. What's stone crab? Stone crab is, they take from the crab a leg, they pull it off, and the leg grows back. They throw the crab back into the water, and it grows back. So they actually, without killing the animal, they take a limb. I see some of you are squirming, but it's a real thing. And you go down to Florida. It's a famous delicacy there. You go next time you go there. You look at all the restaurants. You'll see we have stone crab here. And that's what stone crab is. It's a leg of a living animal. That's what God told Noah. He said, "Do not eat the limb of a living animal." But like I said, if you take the law and you expand it a little bit, it means don't be cruel to the animals, right? Don't make the animals suffer. It could be a crab, it could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could be a cow, it could be a sheep. Right? We're not allowed to be cruel in any way, shape, or form to animals. And if we ever use an animal, for whatever it might be, we have to do it in a way that's so I see somebody's asking the question, even though they didn't say it, but with their hands, they're asking about the Jewish. By the way, this is a law for the Gentiles. It's not a law for the Jews. But even no, it's not true. Whatever's for the Gentile, for sure, is for the Jews as well. But you're asking about kaparis. I see you waving the chicken. So you do it like that. I do it like this. Okay, nicely hold the chicken nicely, and carry it nicely over my head. I still do it, and then afterwards the chicken goes and they shecht it and they serve it for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But the kaparis is not, you're not supposed to do it like that. If you do it like that, that's not the way. You're supposed to do it as like that. You put your head underneath, and then the chicken does something on your head, which the chicken gets you back for whatever you've been doing to it. So the chicken has the final word. Anyways, that's the way it is. I don't know if any of you've ever done kaparis, but that's usually what happens. So it's like it's 3 times you're supposed to do it. Usually by the third time, the chicken is already like really angry, and it lets you know what it thinks of you. But regardless, one has to be always very, very sensitive to the feelings of animals, and there are many, many laws about animals and the way we have to be kind to them. And the Torah says that you always have to feed your animals even before you feed yourself. Right? As the Torah says, and I will give grass in your field for your animals, and you will eat. So the animals come first when it comes to food. When it comes to drink, it says you give it first to a human, because like the survival. But to feed food, you're supposed to feed food first to your animal. So there are many laws in the Torah about it, but the particular law which is brought for Gentiles is not to be cruel to the animal, not to take a limb of a living animal, which includes all form of cruelty. Which, by the way, A lot of people come to me and they ask me if we can put our dog down. You know, the doctor said the dog's very sick, and is that okay? So I just want to know that there is no law against putting the dog to sleep. By human beings, you have to keep a person living as long as you can. Okay, even if there is some suffering, and something that has to be measured at the time, whatever. But we don't believe in euthanasia. We don't believe in ending the person's life because they're suffering a bit. Whereas with an animal, we're much more lenient than that. Why is that? Why are we more lenient than an animal? Why do we put down the animal? Because the main law for an animal is not to keep it alive, but not, that it shouldn't suffer. That's the main law for Judaism. That the responsibility of a human towards animals is not to let them suffer. So if you see them suffering, you'll have to put them out of their misery. By a human, there's two laws. One is that they shouldn't suffer, and another law is that you should keep them alive. So you need to balance those laws. But by animal, the only law that exists really is not to let the animal suffer. So we have so far 6 laws of the laws of Noah, and then we have the final law, which is to set up an equitable, fair court system. Okay, that is a very important law of the laws of Noah. That in every society you need to have a court that rules, and you need the police to enforce it. An entire system, a system of justice, a justice system in every society. So these are the 7 Noahide laws, which, like I said, not to murder, not to steal, not to sexual morality, the laws of not worshiping idols, of being honorable to God, respectful, and finally we have the laws of justice, of a justice system. So you have 7 Noachide, and so the Rambam says that the Jewish people have a responsibility to make sure that in every society around the world, in every country, these laws are adhered to. What is that? It's basic morality, basic humanity, and that it is a responsibility of the Jewish people to bring the world to that understanding. Like we're one nation under God. That's what the Americans say, right? But the idea is that every nation should be under. Now, think about how beautiful it would be if all the people of the world would not focus so much on their differences, but more on the commonality, on a common morality. But truthfully, all of the religions of the world really have that core values. And so this is the dream of the Jewish people. There should be Hashem Echad. That the world should be a world of one God, with the 7 Noachide codes, with the laws of Noah, with belief, and then there will be a different world. So this is what Judaism actually started to do at the beginning, with Adam and Noah, and then with Abraham even. I guess to reach the point then that God said, okay, now we're going to go focus on the Jewish people, make a moral nation. But the goal of this moral nation is not to keep all this morality to themselves, but to continue to be a light unto the nations, as we say, right? That's what Jewish people are supposed to do. We're supposed to be a light unto the nations by example. But now we come to another phase, which is one of influence, not just by example, but we need to influence the world and to teach them the basic moral principles. And now in this world where today we're so connected, and everybody sees what everyone else is doing. This is the greatest opportunity ever. Whenever we have a chance or opportunity to teach this morality, this oneness of God. And this is Jews, we believe this is going to be the Messianic era where nation shall not lift sword against nation, and we'll all be one, and everyone will learn about the truth and about God. And what a vision. What a vision! That I envisioned the prophets of Isaiah and Jeremiah and all of them. That's what they were visioning. Visioning a world where people get along with each other. A world where they keep the basic Noahide code, which brought through Judaism to the rest of the world. So, folks, it's going to be a brand new world, and the world is going to be one we're going to, and this is our job. So, what does it mean in practical terms? Practical terms is you're sitting on the plane, and you're sitting next to someone, and they're not necessarily of the Jewish faith. Talk to them about Noahide code. Talk to them about morality, about teaching these values, core values, to their own communities, to wherever they are. So any time we meet someone, it doesn't have to be necessarily a Jew. It can be anybody from any nation of the world. It's an opportunity to talk to them about this Noahide vision, about that Judaism has a dream. There's once a famous non-Jew that said, I have a dream. I have a dream, right? So Judaism had a dream too. We were the first dreamers. That's what's special about the Jews. We're all dreamers. Chalom chalamti. We all have a dream for the world, right? And now we have an opportunity like never before to positively influence everyone. So we should do so. Coming Mashiach the Kingdom, may it remain Amen. Any questions?
Rabbi,
Yes.
do you think because we are the moral conscience of the world, and that's what our mission is, that's why we're so hated?
That's for sure. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It says somewhere that the Jewish people receive the world, the Torah, and the moral mission. Where do we receive it? Received it at a mountain called Sinai.
Yeah.
If you look at the word Sinai, it also means Sina, which is hatred.
Hatred.
So it says
Yeah.
when the Jews brought down the morality of the world, they started to be hated for that. Because
To this day.
nobody likes the good guy or the guy that comes and tells us,
Yeah.
you need to be good, the goody. So the message of Judaism to the world, which was brought down at Sinai, evokes Sina. Sinai, Sina. So that's
I didn't connect it, but it's
yeah.
something to think about.
But that's what's brought down. When they explain where anti-Semitism comes from, so there are many explanations. This one says because the Jews are rich. This one says because the Jews are poor. This one says because we're different. This one says because we're minority. This one says because we exert too much influence. This one says because we exert no influence. Everybody's got a different theory. But more than likely, the main theory is,
I think so.
Sina. It's Sina. It's a
wow. I didn't.
But
yeah.
It's a jealousy, a hatred, or what? But it's a respect.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
If we stick to what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
If we do what we're supposed to do, there's great respect. And I find that whenever I'm like a rabbi and I speak to people, there's amazing respect for the Jewish roots of the entire world. They have a lot of respect for it. But
Rabbi, Marco Rubio should be so lucky to listen to you when he is traveling and trying to make peace between Ukraine and Russia, between Israel and Arabs and Pakistan and India. I don't know why all these neighbors hate each other, Yugoslavia. I don't know, this world is so, they should listen to you more.
Yeah, I mean, if we had 7 billion people on the Zoom, you stand a chance. Meanwhile, we only have 7, but we need to times it by 1 billion. You know what I mean? 7 billion people will all come onto this Zoom, then the world will be a better world, a better place. But look,
And
we're
to
doing
this day,
huh?
And to this day, any non-Jew, any interaction it always comes out, the Jews are all rich. So I think they have this misconceived notion also, and the jealousy.
Yeah, it's
Unfortunately.
you know what? You can get past those things if you have an opportunity to speak.
Very easily.
Yeah,
Oh, so
but they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe that it's not true.
yeah. Look, I believe that there are a lot of good goyim, and even
I'm
though
not saying no.
even though there are some bad ones everywhere, right? And there are some bad Jews too.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
humanity, we can't lose faith in trying to bring the world closer to Hashem.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what
about
it is.
it.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Beautifully done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
I
so
love
much.
that about Sinai. Sinai, very good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Bye-bye.
good day, everyone. Good job.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.